some of the really key things and the key rules when you're collaborating with human beings. And we're certainly talking about it in a professional setting. But frankly, I don't care if you're working on a group project in high school and college. These are general rules of collaboration that are going to elicit the strongest communication results you could imagine. One of them is sharing wins and compliments. Now, I know this might seem generic and trite to a lot of people, but the fact of the matter is, when you get to be an adult, there aren't a lot of compliments being passed around. There are not a lot of opportunities to appreciate the little things. And I want to just specify, when I'm talking about compliments, I'm not actually talking about obvious compliments. Obvious compliments are still good, don't get me wrong, but look at ways, if you're sitting in your office right now, think of someone who did the littlest thing for you. Think of someone who did something where it wouldn't even occur to you to thank or appreciate that person. Get up and thank them, because talk about buy-in. Again, we talked about it earlier, building people up. That's a great way to build people up. The second thing is, when you're collaborating, define the roles everybody has in the collaboration and review the expectations everybody has during the collaboration. No risk, just good, open, honest, transparent communication. When I think of, if someone were to describe me, and someone said to me, Mark, what are some words that you would like to be described as that would mean a lot to you? Well, just like everybody else, I would love to be told I'm caring and I'm kind and I'm giving and all those things. But you know, the words that people might not expect, one would be transparent. You know, and transparency to me translates to authenticity and being genuine. And the second would be approachable. Because if you're approachable, basically, you've created a culture and environment where anybody could share anything with you without fear of reprisal. Additional meeting things would be remove distractions. Now, I'm not going to get on my high horse and talk about cell phones, but I would say that when you're in a collaboration with people, the only thing that should be in that meeting are yourself and any specific meeting materials you need, no more, no less. Because let me make it clear to everybody that when you're in a meeting with someone and there is a culture of phones, every time someone looks at their phone, that person's basically saying what I need to do and what I need to think about right now is more important than what the group's doing. They might as well just hold up a sign saying that, because that's what it means. Second thing is, or it's not second thing, additional things are the why. Why are we having this meeting? What is the ultimate goal, not only for the meeting, but what is the high-level goal and problem we're trying to solve? Because you might not solve the problem in the meeting itself, but it's clear that the why. I mentioned earlier in the show that one of the best ways to get people to buy into what you're talking about is explain to them the relevance. And if people are unclear about the relevance of the meeting or the goal, you're behind the 8 ball already. Now, let's talk about delegation for a moment. This can be really tricky in meetings. And a lot of times when I hear about departmental struggles or leadership struggles, it's around delegation. And so whenever I have exchanges around this topic, I often say, so you have trouble delegating? And they say, why? And I say, why? And they'll say, well, I don't know. And I say, well, I know. I say it's one of 4 things. It's you don't trust the people that you're going to delegate to. 2, you can't give up control. 3, you don't think people will work to the same standards and expectations you have of yourself and the work. And by the way, that's exactly a prime example of what I was talking about earlier with articulated expectations. Because if you have in your mind a certain level and you don't think someone can get to that level, well, do they know the level you want them to get to? So when it comes to delegation, what's the cost? If you have people in your company right now that are struggling to delegate work, a lot of people in corporate will say, well, that's okay. They're working late. They're getting so much done. I mean, they are so super high level productive. But I need to break the news to someone. There's this thing called burnout. And burnout, when it comes to productivity or delegation, here's what happens. If you're not delegating work, there's the mental, physical, and emotional stress that goes into being overworked. 2, if you're not trusting people on your team, then if you have doubts about the people on your team, that's going to be conveyed. I mean, that's going to be obvious. If you're not giving people certain work, especially if it's part of their job or they're thinking they should have that to do, it won't happen. So it can break down the chemistry of the team. It can create physical, mental, and emotional stress and burnout. It can also create problems around engagement because people aren't going to want to contribute and participate if they don't think they're trusted or valued in the first place. So when you talk about sitting in a meeting to collaborate and the importance of delegation, here's what really can play an ugly head. Who's doing the one delegating? And why has that person earned the right to delegate? Is it something being told or something being asked? And then once the delegation tasks are, how do we know everybody feels like they have an equal job or equal share because everybody's so protective of their time? So the delegation piece of management and the delegation piece of collaboration is so delicate, and it really requires a lot of emotional intelligence.